I am Taniesha Garrison, and I have been doing readings, clearings, and healings in the Akashic Records for almost 15 years now. I started this work to just make sense of some challenging life experiences that I was going through. And my continued work in the records has been such a powerful and profound gift for me as I continue to just figure out who I am, why I am, where I am, all the things. So actually, before I even start there, hi, welcome. How many people have experience consciously working in the records? Like you've either had your records read or you have read for other people? Okay, so some folks. Cool. Well, then to just get us all on the same page, the way that I explain the Akashic Records to people is that it is a living vibrational archive of all souls' experiences ever. That's it. So you can find a lot of information there. You find information about the choices, lessons, patterns that have played out in your life, as well as potential for your life. They just hold the imprint of soul experiences. They show us those deeper threads that shape who we are and why we are that way. And so before I share more about my own journey in the records, and in particular how I came to work with ancestors in the records, I'd actually like to start by inviting us to experience this session a little bit more fully. So we're going to do just a brief meditation. Just find a comfortable position. If it feels good for you, close your eyes. If not, just bring your gaze to a soft focus. And take a slow breath in and out. Just breathing deeply, intentionally. So first, we set the collective intention that everything we do and experience here is guided by divine love, and only those energies that exist for our highest and greatest good, evolution, and healing are present with us. Take a deep breath. And now imagine a doorway in front of you. For this moment, don't look beyond the doorway. Just notice the doorway itself, maybe the door you see. Its height, its color, its edges. If you touched it, what texture would you feel? This doorway is your threshold. Behind you, around you, is the ordinary, the noise and the tasks that can wait. Through the doorway is a sacred, expanded experience of now, where your soul, your deepest wisdom, and your ancestors are already present. Take a breath here, and with your next exhale, see the doorway itself begin to dissolve until there is no separation at all. You are already within that sacred space. You are fully present, you are fully here, and you are fully open to the possibilities of connecting with your ancestors and your soul's lineage. Just breathing into this connection, breathing into the now. And together, we have filled this room with the presence and wisdom of countless lineages. That is the energy that we are stepping into now. And it is from this space that we will begin. Okay, you can open your eyes. Thank you. Hi, welcome. Okay, so one quick note is that I have a number of worksheets that I passed out. I didn't know how many people to expect, so I only printed out 20. So if you don't have one, just come and see me when our time is over together today, and I'll make sure I get one for you. But this worksheet is going to be your little map through the Akashic Records. It'll be a way to kind of keep track of where we are, because my hope is that by the time we are finished today, you will have connected with a lineage, with an ancestry that you want to connect with. You'll have some questions that you want to ask and explore in the records, and any other notes about what you experienced that you'd like to feel into. Okay, so again, I am Taniesha Garrison. I have been working in the Akashic Records in various capacities for about 15 years now. And I've been reading for other people. And this development that I experienced in the records really accelerated over the past 4.5 years. After my beloved daughter, Faith, passed away unexpectedly. She was having surgery for a bowel obstruction, which is a serious surgery, but we did not think it would be fatal. Her body could not handle those complications, and so at 19 years old, 19 and a half, my daughter Faith passed away. And so when I chose to begin accepting her absence from this physical plane, her physical absence, I should say, and I use those terms very intentionally because those of you who have grieved massive losses, you know that choice, that acceptance, that is it's a daily act. So when I chose to live, when I chose to be present in this life, in this way, I turned to the records in earnest. And my experience there has really been one of my main ways of finding my way forward through the grief, and then toward the vision of myself that each moment is calling me to be. And I think it was this work of connecting with Faith in the records and understanding the relationship, like our relationship as mother and daughter, that led me to this unexpected and powerful gift, which was the presence of my ancestors in the Akashic Records, their voices, their blessings, their patterns, all waiting to be heard. And so that's what I want to share with you today. Why the records are such a meaningful space for ancestor work, what they can reveal that other practices might not, and how you can begin to open the records in ways that allow this wisdom to meet you. Okay, so why turn to the Akashic Records for ancestor work? Because in some way, these two realms feel very distinct. They did to me. Ancestor work is rooted, it's earthy, it's grounded, it's tied to soil and blood and bone. Work in the records is celestial, it's expansive, it reaches beyond the starry realms. Ancestor work feels that it draws the strength from the ground beneath our feet, kind of like this root chakra energy, whereas Akashic Records work opens us up to this ethereal expanse, like the above and beyond. To me, that feels very connected to your crown chakra, so opposite ends of the spectrum. And of course, both do hold more than that. Ancestor work can be mystical, work in the records can be grounding, but thinking of them as polarities, root and crown, earth and sky, it might actually lead you to miss out on the beautiful way that they do intersect. And so I had an experience a couple years ago that showed me just how deeply the ancestral plane and the Akasha are intertwined, and I'd like to share that with you here. So, May of 2023, I was in the Sacred Valley of Peru, so high up in the Andes Mountains at a plant medicine retreat. I didn't know anybody. I have barely passable Spanish, but like the retreat itself I was drawn to because it felt right. Part of me was drawn by the chance to just expand my consciousness through the partaking of this beautiful plant spirit, ayahuasca. Part of me was drawn by the proximity of the retreat leaders to the plant spirits themselves. So they were people who were members of the Quechua tribe, which is descended from the Inca tribe. And so they had cultivated relationships with the plants, the spirits, etc., for centuries. They had tended, prepared them, they had offered them ceremonially. But I think the biggest part of me was drawn to this retreat because the second anniversary of Faith's passing fell during that retreat. And so I'm here, I'm in Peru. And in the first of the several ceremonies, my brain just kind of started in a little bit. And I don't know about you, but this is kind of what I experience. I can tell when I'm right on the edge of some sort of transformation, some sort of like ascension, because my ego will go in, my brain will get started. And so my brain says, what are you doing here? I am a Black American woman. I am descended from enslaved African people. I have about less than a quarter of Irish ancestry, but certainly no biological connections to the indigenous tribes of South America, or according to, my ancestry DNA tests anyway. So what right did I have to engage with the plant spirits of that place to receive these ikaros, to blow in the coca leaves, to commit myself to this principle and practice of Aini, to engage in these ceremonies. Like, what were the words, the practices, the plants that were recognized by my ancestors to extend their consciousness, to grieve like massive losses that they had experienced? Did they feel that I was dishonoring them by participating in these traditions? And the Incans, the Quechua ancestors, did they feel dishonored by me? Some of these questions around ancestry really threatened to throw a wrench into my connection here. But the beautiful thing is that almost as soon as my brain started in asking these questions, I started to receive answers from my heart, and that's when I can tell that I'm connected to my higher self, that receptive energy. So it started with this just profound sense of welcome, a very soft but insistent, yes, you are in the right place. And then as the medicine started to move through me, I had a visual of these like beautiful, tall, majestic Andes mountains like curling in around me in a way that felt protective and nurturing and inviting. And most crucially, in a way that felt familiar. I felt recognized by the energy of that place, and I also recognized it. And that recognition is the piece that I want to expand on here. So my experience there with those medicines in that place that I was not consciously aware of ever having visited, it felt more like a memory than a discovery. And this pointed me to a deeper truth, which is this, that our lineage, our ancestry, is not just about DNA or geography. And I don't use the word just to dismiss. There are lots of things in my biological ancestry that I am so proud of. But my ancestry also extends beyond that. There is soul lineage, the ancestry that travels with us across lives, across cultures, even across dimensions. And then when you start talking about across lives, across cultures, across dimensions, that's the realm of the Akashic Records, because that is the field where these connections, these lineages become visible. And so in short, that sense of welcome that I felt in the Sacred Valley from those plant spirits, from the people, from the place, from the mountains, it did not erase the cultural difference that we have, but it did confirm that my soul has these threads that reach beyond my family tree. I, and we all, have ancestry that is earthly and cultural, but also ancestry that is celestial, that is soul-based. Teachers, star families, plant and stone lineages, beings whose forms and names may be unfamiliar to us, but whose presence is unmistakably kin. And so those same energies that I met in the Sacred Valley also move through other realms and lifetimes, and that's why I was recognizing them. I had experienced them before, just not in this particular body. And the thing that I love about the records is just that they let us hold all of that. The rooted ties of blood and soil from this particular experience, but also those wider and interwoven lineages of soul across all dimensions. Okay, so I want us to just take a moment to feel into what this insight awakens in each one of us. Okay, so earlier, we imagined a threshold allowing us to be more fully in this space together. So we're going to return to that image for just a moment. Okay, so again, close your eyes, or if you'd prefer to, just bring your attention to a soft gaze. And let's start to breathe in again. Breathing in deeply. And exhale. Feeling into the energy of the room and of the space. So now picture yourself standing before another threshold, this one leading into the vastness of your lineage. There is yet another threshold in front of you. You are standing outside of that door, but this time around, the door is open. And as you look across that threshold, you see clusters of beings that you feel a familiarity with. On one side of that doorway are your biological ancestors, your parents, grandparents, those whose stories live in your body and your DNA. You recognize familiar forms, maybe facial expressions, maybe body types. And you express gratitude for the familiarity of this group. Just feeling into that connection. And now you turn your attention to the other side. So across from these beings. And on this other side of the doorway are your soul ancestors. It's almost like you looked from left to right. And these soul ancestors are your lineages in spirit. They are guides, they are star families, they are cosmic kin who have walked with you across lifetimes. Those are the stories that are embedded in your energy field, still influencing your DNA, perhaps not as immediately as the biology, but you feel a sense of familiarity, a sense of recognition. Just breathe deeply into the energy of that connection. I'm hearing welcome, welcome. So now take a slow breath in. And as you exhale, ask yourself, from which side is something calling to me now? Am I being drawn to the biological side? Am I being drawn to my soul side? Just take a moment to sit with that. You don't need to reach for answers. Just notice. Notice what comes up. Notice where you feel pulled. Knowing that all your ancestors, all your lineages, biological, cultural, cosmic, celestial, they all exist for you all the time. Just which side are you being drawn to more right now, in this moment? All right, take another breath and just let that wisdom rest with you. Something you can carry into the rest of our time together. If you have one of those worksheets, there's a little place on there where you can just kind of make some notes about what you experienced, where you felt that pull. Was it the biological side? Was it that cosmic side? Just check that little box. And anything else that came to you. Any images that you saw, sensations that you felt, words that you heard. Maybe you heard a sound, maybe you heard a song. Just whatever came to you, just jot a couple of notes down so you'll remember. Folks who are looking for pens, I think there are some in the back of the room. Let's see. Thank you. Okay. Is there anything? Okay. I'll set those here. Okay, so I am being led to add a couple more things here. One is to not feel any guilt around where you feel drawn. You know, some people are like, "Ooh, I think I should go in this direction, but I actually feel pulled by this direction." You don't have to feel that way. I mean, feel your feelings, but the records are telling you all of your ancestors are always there for you all the time. And so that's why you're kind of in this receptive energy. You're sensing who is pulling you, the direction that you're being pulled in, because that's the direction that has something to offer you in this moment. You go back and you do this reflection again, you might feel pulled in a different direction. Okay, so that's okay. Whatever came to you is what should have come to you. The other thing that I want to add is just that recognizing your spiritual ancestry doesn't necessarily mean then that, you know, everything is ours to claim. And so this work is asking us to move with reverence, you know, honoring traditions with care and being mindful to not cause harm as we expand, our sets of cultures, traditions, et cetera, and in particular, not causing harm to groups of people who have been historically marginalized, okay? So just check in with your records, feel into your heart, and just know that sometimes, if a doorway seems open, you walk into the door and there's something that you're resisting, something that's not allowing you to walk all the way through that's okay. Not every door is open for us right now, and that's okay, right? There are many other doors that are open. So, okay. All right, so what we just touched into, that sense of lineage that extends beyond family tree into soul and cosmos, that is exactly what the records open for us. They give us a way to honor the ancestors of blood and culture, while also remembering the ancestors of spirit who walk with us across lifetimes and dimensions. And so let's explore what becomes possible when we enter into the records with that wider frame. So for folks who have worked in the records, or folks who have read for today, you know that part of the work of going into the records is setting an intention, because that just helps direct the information that comes to you. You can imagine that in a field that expansive, that's holding all of the information ever, if you kind of walk into there without a specific focus, you might not necessarily receive what you wanted to receive. And so for me, setting an intention, and especially when we're working to identify cycles that need to be broken or gifts that we'd like to receive, that just looks like asking a focused question. And you can ask that question of your cosmic lineage, you can ask that question of your biological lineage, but it's really just about asking questions that reveal the patterns that are ready to heal and the gifts that lead you back to the wholeness that you already have at the center, at the core of who you are. And so I offer to you a few questions that can serve those aim, and those are on that worksheet if you have one. What patterns have I inherited that shape the way I move through the world? What patterns? What did my ancestors need to survive, and how can I honor that without repeating it? What soul patterns am I here to heal? There are a couple more here. What gifts am I carrying from my ancestors? Gifts that they might not have been fully free to express? What ancient wisdom lives in my bones, waiting to be remembered? Okay. Notice how some of these questions pull you towards healing work, and some of those questions pull you towards receiving and remembering. So it just depends on your intention in the records. So when I turned to the records after Faith passed, they opened pathways to both types of information, gifts that were available to support me on my journey, but also grief-related patterns to heal, not just for myself, but for my biological lineage in this instance. So I'm a storyteller, so I want to tell you a little bit about my journey there. I already knew that I was not the first mother in my family to experience the death of a child. My mom experienced a late-term pregnancy loss. My grandmother, her mom, experienced the death of my Uncle Greg, who was her baby son. He was in his mid-20s. My great-grandmother buried several children, including a daughter who was in her 20s. My faith was 19 and a half, almost 20 years old. So there was this pattern around parents experiencing the loss or the death of their children right around this threshold age, just as you were stepping into or about to step into adulthood. But the deeper pattern was in how we, the mothers, responded to these losses. We turned our grief inward with the sharpest of blades. We pierced ourselves with what we tried to channel as the pain of our children until the suffering felt unbearable, just hollowing us out. I feel so much compassion for the version of myself that was doing these things. And then the way that we responded to that inner pain, because we could not tolerate being inside, so we threw ourselves outward into care, into service, into work, as if that busyness could quiet the ache. Of course, spoiler alert, it did not. So there was this constant cycle of suffering and then serving. And then when the serving did not stop the suffering, we served and suffered more. Just a spiral, a pattern. And for me, this looked like trying to carry Faith's suffering inside my body, like to feel her pain. I think in some ways I was trying to hold it for her. And that internal suffering fueled external service because it just made being inside unbearable. And so I returned to my nonprofit job 3 weeks after Faith died. I picked up 2 more jobs. I started coaching other people. I even started searching for volunteer opportunities for young adults on the spectrum. Faith had autism spectrum disorder. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I got to use this to help other people. All these things that I've learned about caring for people on the autism spectrum in the ways that they need it. And I think I was telling myself, this is what strong women do. I'm helping someone else. But the record showed me that this was actually a soul pattern that needed to be disentangled and healed. Folding pain into purpose means that we never really gave ourselves permission to release the suffering. So we survived, but we survived at the cost of joy, of expansion, of freedom, at the cost of living, really. And so the records helped me recognize and untangle that knot. And so doing the work to heal that cycle of suffering and serving in myself, I was able to offer kind of a lineage healing for the women who came before me. It was the most powerful experience I think I've had in the records. I was working with my mentor. We were both in the Akashic Records, and we recognized this thing that needed to be disentangled. And as we were sort of untangling this last bit of energy, the image that came to me was this line of women just flanking me on both sides. And in my mind's eye, they extended even further than like my mind's eye could see. But I automatically knew this to be ancestors, women ancestors who were engaging in this pattern. And there was like this collective breath, like I could hear that with my ears. And it was that they were witnessing this healing in me, but also experiencing healing in themselves in that same moment. And what a beautiful thing to be able to do this in the records, to not only bring it into this cycle for myself, but also bring it into the ways that my ancestors were carrying this before. The beautiful thing about healing in the records is that it also creates more energetic space for you. The more you clear out of your records, the more you're able to receive gifts and integrate those gifts that your ancestors are looking to hand forward to you. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my work there. Ancestor work in general, when people think about it, I've noticed that people tend to talk about healing the traumas. That's a big part of what you can do when you are working with your ancestors. But the records and working with ancestors in general also return us to gifts, the blessings of the soul wisdom that our ancestors long for us to reclaim. These are the things that help us more fully embrace who we are and what we have to contribute to this world. And so here's an example of one of the ways that I have been able to sort of reclaim gifts. After Faith died, people would come and tell me things like, her little short life, gosh, I know this is awful, but she taught me so much. She was such a warrior. She was so fierce. I am a better person. I'm a better therapist, a better teacher, a better friend, fill in the blank, because I knew her. And okay, some of this is true. Faith was a force. She was a little warrior. She was born at 24 weeks in gestation. She spent her first 5 months, 5 months and 2 days actually, in the neonatal intensive care unit. She was diagnosed with autism, and it manifested at the nonverbal end of the spectrum. And so she had all of the challenges and frustrations of not always being understood. She had these very extensive food sensitivities and allergies, several multi-week stays in the hospital for the GI, the gastrointestinal complications. And so while, yes, like part of me recognized and understood that people were doing their best to offer me what they thought was a compliment or share their, their real lived experiences with faith, I would get so angry when people would tell me those things. I think what I was hearing from them was that faith's life existed for other people to mine for meaning, And she was whole, she was sovereign. She came to this planet for her own reasons, and part of that was to experience the beauty of humanity, not just its struggles. And I think I just kept hearing in those messages, she only existed to struggle, to teach other people. And I would get so intensely angry when people would try to share this with me. And when you have like those really strong and intense emotions, that's a good sign that you can go into the records and learn something there. There's something that exists for you to unpack there. And so the records, what unfolded there really surprised me, actually. And it was that the record showed that teaching, guiding, holding space for awakening was not something that was imposed on faith, but rather this was something that she came to this earth to do. And it was something that she and I had done together over and over in different forms. The records revealed over time many images of this work that we did together. I saw us within a cluster of like light beings, what I now know to be like starseed, a star family. We were part of, but distinct from these like very pure crystalline forms of light. We were huddled together. We were almost strategizing in the way that I imagine guides would do, like how to guide people, how to awaken these people to like these beautiful gifts that are already alive in them. Separately, I think we existed in some dimensions, guiding souls who were just beginning to remember their own power. And I also have these very distinct, they feel like memories, although they did not happen on this particular plane, but us coming together to celebrate, to affirm, to encourage each other and our entire little cosmic soul group. And so ultimately, these images sort of revealed to me that we are part of a lineage of beings who are devoted to preserving and expanding sacred wisdom. And in this lifetime, part of Faith's role was to help me remember and embody those gifts again. So she was teaching me. She chose at the soul level to come experience this planet in the way that she did for her soul lessons, for her growth and development, and also to leave this planet before me so that I could step more fully into this work. And that was a really complicated one. It does not erase the fact that I miss her. I miss her physical presence. I miss imagining, who she would have been as an adult, embodied. But at the same time, it does transform the grieving experience for me. It showed that our bond isn't just mother and daughter, which is a powerful bond in and of itself, but it is also one that's part of a soul lineage of wisdom, of love, of care that extends far beyond this body, far beyond this time. And the records did not hand this information over as like a set of abstract facts. Here are just some pictures, Taniesha, for you to see, for you to take a look at. They actually landed as what felt like boons in my energetic field, like these transmissions, these energetic downloads, these things that amplified the power that I have to connect people with their inner wisdom, their inner healers. It just made whole what had appeared or what had felt fragmented. Things that might take years or even lifetimes to learn through trial and error had arrived in an instant, through my work in the records. That's why it's just such a beautiful place, such an apt place for working with ancestors. And so my hope is that, what you're taking away from this is that the records hold both the traumas that are ready to be released, but also the gifts that are ready to be remembered. So they invite us to clear what binds us, what's holding us back, maybe things that our ancestors had also experienced, but also to reclaim the blessings that live behind us and within us. And this happens at more than one level. This is happening at your soul level for your cosmic ancestors, but also happening at your DNA level, at your biological level. There are energetic patterns held in my cosmic families that I have cleared, and gifts that I've received from biological ancestry, and so on. The field is just so vast. The more you turn to it, the more you look, the more information you'll find. And so I want to let these insights settle and get anchored in. We're going to add a little bit to your plan here. So earlier, you sensed a pull from a particular lineage. Perhaps it was your biological ancestry, or maybe your cosmic kin. Okay. So let's take a moment to return to that image now. All right. So take a breath, get comfortable, close your eyes or bring your focus to a soft gaze. And now turn your focus to that group of ancestors who called you earlier. Remembering the welcome, remembering the recognition, feeling into that, feeling gratitude, thankfulness. And now ask that set of beings, what is it that wants my attention now? Is it a wound ready to be released? Or is it a gift waiting to be remembered? What is calling my attention right now? Right now. Is there a wound? Is there a gift? And just listen and receive. Breathe deeply into your heart. This is where you're going to receive that information. And just notice what comes. It could be a word, a feeling, an image. Just trust those impressions. All right, what you're getting might be subtle. That's okay. Just whatever comes, let it unfold. You don't have to reach for it mentally, let it come to you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. If you're using your worksheet to help you kind of keep track of information here, write a word about what came to you. Was it a wound or was it a gift? And then if anything else came to you, any other sensations, images, feelings, sounds, emotions, whatever came, just jot that down so you can come back to it, and it will just be a touchstone for the rest of our time together. I'm just curious, feel free to participate or not. How many people heard a wound to be healed? Okay, great. And what about the gifts to be, okay. Is there anybody who heard both? Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. Sometimes you do. Okay. Okay, friends. So to wrap today's chat, I would just like to share a little more about how to open the records to do the work. The thing is that the Akashic Records always exist. The field is always there, and every one of us can tap into it. You don't have to have special training. You don't have to be, what you think of as a good person. Every single person can access the records. It is our birthright. And so I want to give you a short process for entering into the records if you'd like to try this and receive more information from your biological or cosmic ancestry to get more information about that wound or about that gift. The process is on your handout. It's a framework that I kind of put together myself. It's called OASIS. I love the imagery, but it's also something that you can repeat. So the acronym OASIS stands for Open Sacred Space, Attune Your Energy to the records, you set an intention, you invite in the information, and then you seal the records, you close the records. Okay, so let me go through each one a little bit more in depth. So as far as opening the record or opening sacred space is concerned, every time I connect with the records, I start by just creating this container that feels safe and intentional and sacred. You know, something to help you experience the extraordinary, because the records are that. What a gift. You could light a candle. Sometimes people just do those deep breathing exercises. Maybe you say a short prayer. Some people visualize a circle of light around them. However you do it, the point is just to mark that moment as sacred, you know, that threshold between the ordinary and the extraordinary. And to also show gratitude to the forces of the universe that make this gift possible. Gratitude is such a power multiplier that when you are in the vibrational frequency of gratitude, the things that you want come to you much more quickly because that is a high vibrational emotion. Okay, so I always enter the records with gratitude. It's not hard because I'm so grateful for all of the things that I've learned there. All right, so next you attune your energy to the energy of the records. I can't remember if I said this earlier, but I remember talking to somebody about the Akashic Records. And one of the ways we talk about it, the metaphors that we use, is to say, you're opening the book of records, you're closing the book of records. It's a little bit of a misnomer because really it's just a vibrational field, okay? And so when you are attuning your energy to the level of the records, you are raising your energy so that you can attune with that field, kind of like turning the channel on the radio for us older folks. So for attunement, what I do is bring my awareness to each one of my chakras. So from the root, I go all the way up through the soul star chakra, which sits like above your crown. And I breathe until I feel them spinning in harmony, kind of like tuning instruments to the same key. I don't force it, I allow it to happen. Working in the records is a receptive energy. And then I visualize my energy field expanding through the physical, emotional, and mental planes until it reaches the universal quantum field. So that's the state where I feel most connected to the records. You might have your own imagery or practice that feels natural to you. What really matters for this step is just that sense of alignment and expansion. Okay, you want your energy field to be open and steady and ready to connect. I was talking to a friend of mine about how to do this, and I was explaining, I bought a couch a couple years ago, and it's a beautiful couch. It's like loud and orange, and you know, for some reason I think I was very connected to the sacral chakra back then, which is why that orange drew me in, maybe, I don't know. But it was also like very firm and stiff, you know, and so for the first few months or so, I would go and I would sit on the couch, and it would take me a little while to get comfortable. But now there is a very lovely Taniesha-shaped dent in that couch, you know, that allows me to engage with whatever it is that I'm getting ready to do much more quickly. And so I offer you that encouragement so that you find the process, the ritual that works for you to attune your energy and kind of go through that and just know that, you know, that won't always be what you have to do, but in the beginning, it will help you to access that dimension. Okay. After that, set your intention. So once you have attuned to the records, clarify what you're in there to explore. So the records respond most clearly when you come with a focused purpose. So ask a question or, you know, set a very kind of concrete intention. The best questions are ones that are open and clear and directed toward healing or remembering. Okay, so like those questions on your handout, for example, notice how they're not seeking yes or no answers. They just open space for transformation and for deeper understanding. And you can also get clear about the level of information that you want to receive from the records. So if you're asking these questions, you know, and directing them towards your cosmic ancestors, you know, your first question might say something like, what inherited patterns are ready to be released through me from my cosmic lineage? You know, what inherited patterns, ellipsis, from my biological lineage, you know? So you can get specific, you can direct the energy, but make sure your question is open enough for you to receive a lot of information. Okay, so once you set that intention, you ask that question or that focus, then invite in the information. I tell people this all the time. One of the places I used to get tripped up as an early reader of the Akashic Records was that my brain was always on. It's like, I see this little image, this little nugget of something, and then my brain goes into overdrive. What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? Tell me about it. You know, just sit with it. It will unfold. You might have to sit with it for a little while, and actually that's okay. The longer you sit with it, the more detailed information you can get. You can ask a follow-up question, like after you've received and maybe you're seeing the same thing or not hearing anything, you might ask, can you show me this in a different way? Show me in a way that makes it easier for me to understand what you're trying to tell me. So you can engage in a dialogue in the records, but you really want to be in that receptive energy. Okay. Okay. So after you invite in that information, you receive everything that you're looking to receive, then you seal the records. Again, this is a little bit of a misnomer here. The records are already open. So really, this just means that you're returning yourself into, you know, your normal vibrational state, one that makes it easier for you to adapt to the world around you. That's it. Close with gratitude, because again, it's that power multiplier, and that ensures that, you know, you can bring your energy and insights, your new way of being, because a lot of times when you're reading in the records, like your energy clears automatically, and now you are this new person, you know, you have this sort of new experience of life, and it comes back with you automatically. So just express thanks, express gratitude, and then you close out. Any grounding work, because this work to me, it still feels very like, it's up there. So like whatever you do to ground, you know, put your feet in grass, eat something that is like starchy or, you know, some roots or something like that, drink some water, but just bring yourself fully back to the present. And that's it. That's the Oasis process. Open, attune, set, invite, and then seal. Okay, so final thoughts here. As we close, we're going to take a moment to recap the Akashic Records. They are, oh my gosh, such a powerful, powerful tool for ancestral work, because they hold both the patterns that we've inherited and the gifts that have been passed through our lineage. In the records, we can uncover anything that needs healing, but also reclaim the strengths that we want to move forward with us, both at the biological and cosmic levels. And so as we close out, we're going to take a collective breath. And I offer this intention for us all. May the threshold always, always, always open to you. And may the gifts of your ancestors, I get emotional. May the gifts of your ancestors rise to meet you again and again. Okay, thank you.